Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop, howdy. Today we have fruitless mulberry. This comes to us from longtime friend and viewer, Tuffy Marginez. This piece is kind of big and heavy, so I'm struggling to hold it up here. It's not all that big, but it is quite heavy. It's 10 by 12 roughly, depending on where you measure it, and it's about 7 inches tall. I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw. I'm just going to knock the corners off. I'm not going to try and make it round or anything. Just knock the corners off to ease up my turning, make it a little quicker. I'm also going to go to the drill press, and right there in the top center of the piece, I'm going to drill a flat bottom hole for my chuck jaws to set against. I'll drill a 5/16 inch hole for my 3/8 inch woodworm screw in the middle of that flat bottom hole. We'll get it mounted up on the lathe and get to turning. Well, I drilled the hole for my woodworm screw, but it's not, the wood isn't solid enough to accept the screw. So I've installed this faceplate ring with 4 screws, so that should hold it well. And this has a dovetail on the inside of it, matching the dovetail on the outside of these chuck jaws. So I'll just set this up here and expand the chuck jaws into that dovetail recess, and it should hold it quite nicely. And as you can see, I've just knocked the corners off slightly. I don't like to take too much off because I don't know what I want to be able to save as we work. I am going to use tailstock support for a while, even with the very secure faceplate ring, because this piece is quite heavy. I'm going to spin it up slowly, then we'll see what kind of speed we can get here. Probably not much. Well, about 450. That's better than I thought. We'll start here on this corner and just start turning and working and seeing what comes of it. I have no idea. I don't know. I'm sure we're going to have to go up in here a ways on the bottom because there's so much deterioration here and there. So we'll probably lose about 1 inch in height in doing that. We'll just see how it goes, okay? I'm going to be using a 5/8 inch bowl gouge, 450 RPM, mask and face shield on. It's just slow going on a piece like this. You can't expect to just hog it out in 10 minutes. It's not going to happen. I'm just looking to see if there's any shape developing here. I don't see much. But I am going to go sharpen up. So we'll come down here to the bottom and start going up some and see what happens with that. Well, I'd say we're doing real good. Just barely getting up into here. I don't know if I love the shape that we have exactly. Mostly just trying to see what's here and what isn't. So I guess I wouldn't mind taking this entirely. This is, I think it's kind of bad anyway, but I just don't want to come up in here. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Yeah, I'm going to come back to this corner. And when you work in a corner like this bottom corner, you want your tool rest to be approximately 45 degrees to the bed ways. Don't measure it, just about a 45-degree angle or so. But I got to be real careful here so I don't get up in there too far. I'm going to see about the speed again. No, about the same. Okay, we're just to it now. So that's about all the bevel we're looking for on that part. How's the rot? I think we're okay. Yeah, this is looking good. Back to the bottom. And it looks like we can have most of a tenon. Let's mark out for it and see where we are. I should go for the larger tenon, huh? That might be just a tad small. I am going to go with the larger tenon, 3.5 inch instead of 2 1/8. So I'm going to cut this part off and then get set up to mark for that tenon. Now I want to use this diamond point tool to create a dovetail on the outside of that tenon. And that's good. Not much left to do but clean up our cuts on this bevel and on the side. Well, it's going to take some cleaning up, and I'm probably going to get a screwdriver and dig around in here and make sure I got all the rot out of there. So I'll do that for a bit. But yeah, it looks good. I'll do a little digging and then it'll be time for sanding. Well, I've done a lot of preparation work on this piece, picking out loose material here and there and everywhere. And I use this brass bristle brush to get inside here, because I can't think of any other tool, any other sander or whatever might get in there. But I think I'm down to sound material now, so it's time to sand. And I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to start with my Sandoflex. This is 180 grit. I'll sand as much of this as I can. It will not reach all the way in there. I'll sand all of the bark along the top edge here. And when I'm done with that, I'll switch to my 2-inch disc starting at 80 grit with the lathe spinning in reverse at about 325 RPM, and I'll sand up through 400 grit, and I'll show you both of those as soon as I get my mask on. And that's just a sample. I'm going to be doing a whole lot more of that. And a whole lot of that, like I said, up through 400 grit. And I'll bring you back when it's time to put some, I think we're going to sanding, sealer, and shellac on this one. It's going to take a while. See you in a bit. Well, I'll never get that 2 hours back. That was a workout. But I'll tell you what, it just never ceases to amaze me. This piece was very rough. You know, all of the corners and edges and whatnot. It was just very rough to feel, and now it just isn't. It's very smooth. And that's so important in a piece. I say that all the time, but it's just so true. It doesn't matter how beautiful the piece might be, and someone says, oh, that's gorgeous, and then they pick it up. If it doesn't feel good, it ceases to look good. It just takes all your hard work away. So it's just worth it to spend the time, get it right. Look at that beautiful grain. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's gorgeous. The almost the white, and then the yellow, and then the brown, and then nearly black. And once I get some sanding sealer on some of these spots, they will be even blacker. And I'm going to have to brush much of this, of course. I've never done a bowl this shape before. I don't know what the shape might be called, but if ever there's been a good example of the wood will dictate what it becomes, which I used to scoff at. I used to think that was just silly. But it's so true. It's so true. The wood will tell you what it wants to be. At least in the case of a piece like this. Maybe not if you're making salad balls. But remember, I wanted to save this part here, and I said I wouldn't mind losing the bottom part. So I worked my way up, and we ended up with a bevel here. And then I went with straight sides the rest of the way. And it's just sort of interesting to me. How this part right here dictated the whole shape of the bowl. But, you know, if you were turning it, you might have decided something else was important, not this. Something else somewhere else, and your shape might have come out different. Okay, this is the part that's going to just take forever. But, again, it's going to be so worth it. I'll probably put on, looks like 2 coats of this and 2 coats of shellac, and I'll bring you back when it's time to start working on the inside. See you in a bit. I have the piece turned around with the tenon mounted up in the chuck. I don't know how far out here I want to come. This portion right here has a big void right below it, so I just don't know. But if I leave all of that, it's going to be really, really wide edges around there. So I'm just going to start in close here, work my way out a little bit, stop, see where I am, see what's happening, and just keep turning like that until we get to a good stopping point. I am going to be using a brand new gouge. This is exactly like my old gouge. This is I shouldn't even mention them because they just anger me. This is a Benjamin's Best from Penn State Industries. It's Penn State Industries that angers me. Because I email them and I say, you know, you don't have any stock, or you don't have the variety you used to have, and they just never answer. They just don't answer. They don't care. This is about all I use. I'm just telling you what I use, that's all. They certainly don't sponsor me, I promise. But people are always asking what's a good gouge to get, or what's a good brand of tools. I don't know what's a good brand of tools. This is all I have, other than a couple of no-name brands that I got at a yard sale. But the other one I had, I've used the entire time my channel has been in existence, and about a year before that as well. So like 4.5 years, something like that. And it's still good. I could use it now. I made the switch because it's about 2 inches shorter than this one. And I think this piece is going to give me a real workout. So I just wanted the extra leverage of the length. I'll probably still use the other one. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just shorter is all. But it's exactly like this. I'm sure there's better steel out there. And yes, I have to sharpen often. But you know, 4.5 years for a $25 tool, I'd say that's pretty good. We're still turning at about 620 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Yep, a workout all right. Sure gonna be pretty though. The outside finished up so nice. It looks like marble. Wonder if I can pick the speed up any. That sure would be helpful. But I don't think so. Nope. About 640. I see a problem. Now I got a hole right through out here. It's not a huge hole, but it's a pretty good size. I don't know if you can see my finger in there. Well, that's just the way it is. I'm gonna come back over here and get my negative rake scraper and scrape this side wall. Now, still got about 1 inch total, so another 1/2 inch or so. Better start calling that good, I think. Yeah. Got enough room to scrape. I've been scraping my way down, so I really just need to do the bottom. Okay, time for sanding. Well, that doesn't look like it's going to be quite as hard as I thought it would be. I'm starting at 80 grit with my 2-inch disc. I'll work up through 400 grit and I'll bring you back when it's time to put some sanding sealer on there. See you in a bit. Before I forget, I want to tell you somebody I'd like you to go over and visit their channel and give them a watch and maybe subscribe. Kimsey, just Kimsey. That's the name of his channel. I'll put a link down in the description if I remember. I'll try my best to remember. Maybe I can put it in your upper right hand corner right here. But he does stuff like this, only where the wood is more far gone than this is, if you can imagine. He makes just some beautiful pieces, puts a real nice finish on them. And his wife comes out and helps. I think that is terrific. And he shows some of his landscape around his area. He does a real nice job with his videos. Very interesting. He's just a nice guy. I really enjoy watching him. Oh, that's just so beautiful, isn't it? Isn't that great? I've got to do a little brushing here. And this is sanding sealer. And then we'll go with shellac for the final finish, just like on the outside. And the sanding sealer is called Zinsser Seal Coat. Comes in a can, ready to use. I don't do anything to it. And you can put any clear finish over it. Doesn't have to be shellac. And it doesn't have to be their brand. So I'll do the same on the inside as I did the outside. 2 coats of sanding sealer, 2 coats of shellac. And I'll bring you back and we'll take off that tenon. Don't forget, Kimsey, just Kimsey. I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. I'm going to place a non-slip cloth over that and bring up the bowl. And bring up my tailstock. I still have the center hole there for reference, so I can just drive my live center into that. And that will help center the ball. Apply a little pressure. Bring up my tool rest. We'll spin the piece up, see if it looks like it's running true. I like to hold my thumbnail against the edge of the tenon, and it's very good. I'm going to turn the speed up to about 550 RPM. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch bowl gouge and commence to removing that tenon. Now I like to leave this center area raised up a little bit if I can. I'm just checking for clearance, make sure the top of the tenon is below the base of the bowl, and I've got lots of clearance, so we're good there. So we don't really need to go any deeper. I just need to get some clean cuts and make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to slow the speed down to about 400 RPM just because we're getting close. I want to keep the piece under control at all times. Now I'm going to switch to a 3/8 inch swept back bowl gouge so that I can get in there closer, and I'm going to adjust my tool rest a little closer and a little higher. The worst thing you can do is get under that little nub, because that'll cause it to pop right out of there. Now this piece is very heavy. It's a little bit scary. I have to apply a lot of pressure towards the headstock here in a minute. Now I'm going to apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to turn the speed down to about 200 RPM. And I'm going to apply a lot of pressure towards the headstock, because there's nothing holding this up on the lathe but the gouge once we make the cut here. Now I'll just take this over here to the workbench, sand it up, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Well, here it is, one fruitless mulberry bowl in the books. Isn't that beautiful? I'll tell you what, this was an ordeal. This was a lot of work. Mostly, I guess, in the sanding, although it gave me a hard time turning it as well. It's a very hard wood, and then all of the voids and whatnot that want to catch the gouge and sandpaper and all of that. I mean, it just was a pain. It was a pain. But to me, it's just well worth it. It's just beautiful. So much nature. Yeah, it's got a hole in it. Make a perfect fruit bowl. A banana, an apple, an orange, not gonna fall through that hole, I promise. I just think it's just gorgeous. And the reason I couldn't fill that hole, it's because there's no way that tape or anything would stick to this irregular surface in there. And the edge right here, this edge is just very, very thin, so that it wouldn't be able to hang on to anything. Whatever you put in there wouldn't be able to hang on. The only way would be to tape off this side, the inside, and fill that whole void. Well, then you're covering up all these textures and all these surfaces, and I just can't imagine doing that. They're just part of the piece, just like, you know, just like this hole, this little hole. It's just part of it. It's just the way it came. It's what it went through in its life, and that's what's important to me. Then you have that bark. I love that bark. Just to think that, you know, this was the outside of the tree, just standing there looking out at whatever, traffic or people or who knows what it got to see. I don't. But it's just a beautiful piece of wood. Got a nice finish on it. It's very heavy, like I said, very, very substantial. I think it's a showpiece. I hope you like it. Thank you, Tuffy Marginez, for sending this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up, please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. An easy way to subscribe is just click my picture you see there near the end of the video. Your comments are always welcome, and I read all of them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.